Welcome to AI ConvoCast, where we bring you the latest in AI and tech innovation. Quick housekeeping. Check out the affiliate links in our description. Using them supports the show, and please don't forget to rate, review, and share if you like what you hear. Let's jump right in.
All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today we are diving into a topic that honestly feels like it's ripped from the headlines, but it's actually something we need to be thinking about a lot more proactively. Deepfakes and digital identity theft.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a ton of sources to dig through on this one, articles, research, even some real-world stories that are frankly pretty-terrifying. But the mission here is to cut through all that noise and get to the insights that really matter.
Absolutely. I mean, we're going to cover the whole landscape, the rise and impact of deepfakes, how digital identity theft is evolving in this AI-driven world, the changing landscape of authentication, and even the broader societal impacts. We really want to break it all down for you.
Exactly. So for starters, let's talk about deepfakes. Can you give us a, deep dive 101 on what we're actually talking about here?
Well, deepfakes are basically hyper-realistic synthetic media. That means images, videos, audio, created using advanced AI and specifically something called generative adversarial networks, or GANs.
GANs, right.
Which is, think of it like two artists kind of battling it out. One's trying to create the perfect forgery, the other's trying to spot the flaws, and it's this constant competition that actually drives the incredible realism we see in deepfakes, which makes it so difficult to distinguish them from genuine content.
So we're not talking about your average Photoshop here. This is AI generating entirely new, convincing media. And we're seeing some pretty significant real-world consequences already, right?
Oh, absolutely. One that really sticks out is a scam that happened back in 2024 in Tbilisi, Georgia. Deepfake videos were created featuring well-known personalities to promote fraudulent investment schemes.
Really?
Yeah. And over 6,000 people were defrauded, like a massive amount, 27 million pounds.
Yeah.
But it's not even just about the financial loss. It's the fact that it shows how easily this technology can manipulate human trust.
6,000 people is a lot of people to fall for that, and 27 million pounds is a lot of money. It really shows you the persuasive power these fakes can have. And it feels like the impact goes even beyond just the finances, right? It's actually eroding our trust in what we see and hear online in general.
Definitely. When you can't be certain if an image or video or even a voice recording is real, it makes it really hard to trust anything. And we have to start thinking differently about verifying everything we see online.
Okay, so AI is being used to create these realistic fakes, and now let's shift to another threat it's fueling: digital identity theft.
Right.
It often feels like this kind of invisible crime happening in the background, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of is this silent heist. But with AI, it's becoming a lot more sophisticated. We're seeing things like voice cloning, where someone's voice can be replicated from just a small audio sample.
Wow.
Facial features can be recreated. AI can even generate completely synthetic data to build completely fake identities.
That's what I was going to say. Synthetic identities, that's a particularly scary aspect of this. We're not just talking about stealing information that already exists.
Right.
It's literally creating entire new personas.
Exactly. So they take bits of real information, maybe some made-up stuff, piece it all together to create this whole new person, and then they use that identity for illicit activities like financial fraud, money laundering, even evading detection.
And the scary thing is these synthetic identities can often bypass traditional security checks because they look legitimate.
Exactly. They look real on the surface. And there's already been some really significant cases. Remember that one where a CEO's voice was cloned using AI?
Yo.
The criminals used it to call an employee and tell them to transfer $35 million offshore. So they're mimicking a voice of authority.
$35 million, that's a lot of money. It just highlights how vulnerable we are to this technology. It makes you think about all the businesses who are probably scrambling to reassess their own security in light of things like this.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so that brings us to authentication in this new world. It feels like the very methods we rely on to prove who we are being challenged. Our passwords, PINs, even things like biometrics.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's AI driving this shift.
Right. I mean, we used to think biometrics like fingerprints or facial recognition were the gold standard.
Yeah.
But even those are becoming less reliable.
Because, well, deepfakes can actually replicate those things: fingerprints, faces, voices.
Wow.
And it makes those older biometric systems, especially the ones that only use one factor, very vulnerable. Imagine a system just using facial recognition. That could be fooled by a deepfake video.
So if these traditional methods aren't enough, what are we supposed to do? What are some of the promising innovations in authentication that are being developed?
There's a few things. One interesting avenue is digital identity wallets. Think of it like a secure digital container for all your personal data.
Okay.
They use strong encryption and this really interesting concept called decentralized verification. So instead of one central authority verifying your identity, it spreads that responsibility across a network, making it a lot harder to tamper with.
Decentralized, okay, that sounds a lot more secure. But are these new methods foolproof? Can they really keep pace with the constant evolution of these threats?
It's hard to say for sure. The success of digital identity wallets, any new authentication method, really hinges on widespread adoption and continuously updating security protocols.
Right.
Because as the attacks get more sophisticated, the defenses have to keep up. It's a constant arms race.
Sounds exhausting. So we've talked about the technology, the immediate dangers, but what about the bigger picture? What are the societal implications of all of this? It feels like we're talking about more than just individual victims and financial losses.
Absolutely. It goes way beyond that.
Right.
It affects the very fabric of society, how we trust each other, how we perceive reality. It has a ripple effect.
Okay, so how does this impact society as a whole? Give us some specifics.
Well, think about the potential for misinformation.
Right.
Deepfakes can create incredibly believable but totally fabricated news reports or political speeches, even social media posts. And these could be used to influence elections, incite violence, or even damage people's reputations. And it all looks so real. We already know how quickly misinformation spreads online, and deepfakes just take that to a whole new level.
It's like adding fuel to the fire, making it even harder to discern what's true.
Exactly. And beyond that, there's also the psychological impact on individuals. Imagine finding a manipulated video of yourself online that you never consented to.
Oh, yeah.
It can lead to fear, anxiety, distrust, and the whole digital environment. When you feel like your own likeness can be misused, it really undermines the feeling of security and trust in the digital world.
And that feeling of distrust can then spill over into the real world. It's a pretty concerning picture. So what can we actually do to address all of this? It feels overwhelming. How do we navigate this future where the lines between real and fake are getting blurrier and blurrier?
I think it takes a multi-pronged approach. We need technological countermeasures, stronger legal frameworks, we need to increase public awareness, and we need to improve our authentication systems, and all of that requires collaboration across different sectors.
So let's break that down a bit. When it comes to technology, what kind of defenses are being developed to fight deepfakes and identity theft?
Well, one of the key areas is developing deepfake detection algorithms. These use AI and machine learning to look for those tiny inconsistencies that might reveal that a piece of content is fake.
Interesting.
So the goal is to be able to tell if an image or video actually came from a camera or if it was artificially generated.
So using AI to fight AI, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about the legal and regulatory side? What role can governments play in addressing this?
Well, regulations are going to be essential. Governments and international organizations need to create laws that criminalize the creation and use of deepfakes for malicious purposes. And we also need regulations around transparency for AI-generated content. People need to know when they're interacting with something that's not real.
Transparency is key. And what about us as individuals? What role does public awareness play in all of this, and how can we protect ourselves?
Well, public awareness and education are absolutely critical. People need to be informed about these threats, the potential dangers. We need to cultivate a healthy sense of skepticism. If something seems too unbelievable, double-check it. Look for corroborating evidence from reliable sources.
So don't just take things at face value. Do your research. Be critical.
Exactly.
Okay, and you mentioned authentication. How are authentication systems evolving to meet these new challenges?
Well, we're moving more towards multi-factor authentication. So instead of just one way to prove your identity, like a password, you need multiple things. Something you know, something you have, and something you are. We're also seeing continuous authentication, which monitors your behavior throughout an entire session. So things like your typing speed, your mouse movements. If anything's off, it flags it.
So it's constantly checking to make sure it's still you using the device.
Exactly. And we're even seeing the integration of emotional recognition, using facial expressions and speech patterns to verify identity.
Wow, so analyzing your emotions to see if it matches your typical behavior patterns.
Yeah, it's another layer of security.
And you mentioned collaboration. What does that look like in this context? Who needs to be working together on this?
I mean, this is going to require a joint effort. We need the technologists who are building the AI and the defenses. We need policymakers to create the right legal frameworks, law enforcement to investigate these crimes, and civil society organizations to raise awareness. We all need to work together, share information, and coordinate strategies to stay ahead of the curve.
We can't work in silos. It has to be a multi-pronged approach. And some of the research we looked at highlighted the increasing sophistication of these attacks. Things like presentation attacks, where you're showing fake content to a camera, or injection attacks, where you're bypassing the camera altogether.
Yeah, it's a constant cat and mouse game. The attacks are getting more advanced, and so the defenses have to keep up. We're seeing a lot of work being done on hybrid systems that combine physical and digital elements. They might use facial biometrics, but also behavioral analysis, and even AI to validate documents. And the cool thing is, some of these systems can verify someone in less than 20 seconds.
So it's secure, but it's also user-friendly.
Right. Speed and convenience are really important if we want these systems to be widely adopted.
And that whole concept of behavioral biometrics for continuous authentication, creating a unique digital fingerprint based on how you interact with your devices, that's fascinating.
It is. It's about establishing a baseline of your normal behavior and then flagging anything that deviates from that.
Yeah.
And adding emotional recognition on top of that, looking for those subtle cues that are hard to fake, it makes it even more secure.
Wow, so it's not just about who you are, but how you are, your unique digital DNA.
Exactly.
Is there any work being done to try to proactively prevent these attacks from happening in the first place? It feels like right now we're playing catch-up.
Yeah, and that's why predictive identity protection is so interesting. It uses AI and data analytics to try to spot potential risks in real time. By analyzing huge amounts of data, these systems can look for unusual patterns and then adjust security measures accordingly.
So moving beyond reacting to threats to actually anticipating them, that's impressive.
It is, and it's going to be critical moving forward.
Our research also talked about this Computing X revolution. Can you explain what that is?
So Computing X basically refers to the convergence of automation, augmentation, and acceleration in computing. It's driving the creation of these sophisticated AI systems like composite AI, which combines different specialized AI components, and embodied AI, which integrates machine learning with robotics and natural language processing.
Okay, so AI is getting even more complex.
Right. And when it comes to identity, we're also seeing a split between large, powerful AI models and smaller, localized AI that can process sensitive data right on your device.
So AI is getting bigger and smaller at the same time.
Yeah, and that has major implications for privacy and security.
For sure. And you know, when we think about shows like The Capture, it's a stark reminder of how this technology could be misused, even by institutions.
Absolutely. The potential for institutional abuse is a real concern. And the fact that there are different regulations in different parts of the world just makes things even more complex.
So this has been a really eye-opening deep dive. AI is clearly presenting us with both amazing opportunities and some very real risks when it comes to digital trust and identity.
For sure. The stakes are higher than ever before, and it feels like we're all figuring this out as we go.
We are. And in the end, it's a shared responsibility to stay informed, to adapt our security practices, and to be aware of the evolving challenges in the digital age. So here's a final thought for our listeners. In a world where real and fake are becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish, how are you going to adapt your own understanding of trust and authenticity in the digital world?
Yeah, that's a great question.
It's something we all need to be thinking about, and it's a question that's going to continue to shape our relationship with technology in the years to come. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Thank you for listening to AI ConvoCast. Please don't forget to rate, review, and share if you like what you hear. Thanks and hope to see you again next time.